Okay, y'all, hold on to your wigs, your wine glasses, and maybe your sanity. Because what just dropped in Huntsville might be the most jaw-dropping twist since Martell thought building a wine brand could fix a broken marriage. You thought the drama was over? Honey, no. It's just getting started this time. It's not coming from Martell, not Melody. Not even the Scotts. This time, it's from the one person no one ever expected to speak out, Martell's mama. Ms. Marlene Holt. And baby, when mama talks, the whole town listens. Now, let's be real, if you've been following the Love and Marriage Huntsville saga. You already know Martell has been out here running around like the main character in a soap opera nobody asked for. But what if I told you his own mother just confirmed every rumor we've been whispering about for years? What if the woman who once defended him through every scandal, every cheating rumor, every courtroom meltdown finally said, "I'm done. Oh, it's happening. I'm the tea." She spilled about ArionneCurry is hotter than the Alabama sun in July. Sources allegedly, wink wink, say Miss Marlene didn't just vent. She confessed her fears about Arionne. And y'all, it's not what anyone expected. From quiet warnings about manipulation to late-night breakdowns she tried to hide from. Producers, this is the kind of revelation that shakes the entire franchise. Because when a mama who once smiled through the chaos finally says she's scared of what her son's gotten into, that's not drama, that's disaster with a dash of divine karma. So buckle up, grab your popcorn, and maybe text your group chat. Because tonight, we're diving into this story that might finally end Martell's reality reign. This isn't just another messy love triangle. This is family, fear, and fallout, and trust me, the receipts are wilder than you could imagine. The story begins in a storm of whispers that have now turned into a full-blown media tornado because Martell Holt has somehow managed to outdo himself again, but this time, the chaos did not come from a camera fight or a social media rant. It came from a quiet voice that no one expected to ever speak. His own mother, Miss Marlene Holt, the woman who once stood like a shield every time Martell faced public humiliation or fan outrage, has finally stepped forward, and the words she released into the world have the kind of weight that no spin doctor or Instagram caption can fix. Because when a mother who has defended you for years finally admits she cannot keep covering for you, it means something inside. The family has cracked beyond repair, and what makes this moment even more explosive is that it does not come from anger or a PR stunt. It comes from exhaustion, that quiet heartbreak that comes when someone has been watching the same mistakes repeat over and over until the pattern becomes unbearable, and fans who have followed the Love and Marriage Huntsville saga from the beginning could feel that shift immediately. It was not a scandal for ratings. It was a revelation, and everyone who had doubted MelodyShari's side of the story suddenly went silent because Marlene's truth felt like the final confirmation they had been waiting for. People online began piecing together clues because they realized this confession did not appear from thin air. It was years in the making, built on one public embarrassment after another, from Martell's endless fights with Melody to his questionable relationship with ArionneCurry to his desperate attempts to present himself as a victim, while every choice he made kept proving the opposite. And what makes it sting more is how Miss Marlene has always been the calm voice in the chaos, never one to publicly shame her son, yet when she spoke this time, the sadness in her eyes told more than any words could. Her tone was soft, but her meaning was sharp. She was done protecting him from the truth he created himself. Sources close to the production began whispering that she had been expressing concern privately for months, worried that Arionne's influence over Martell had grown stronger than people realized, claiming that Martell no longer made decisions on his own and that his life was becoming a cycle of control disguised as love. And even though these are just alleged accounts, the timing felt too perfect to ignore, because soon after that interview, fans noticed that Miss Marlene stopped liking Arionne's posts and unfollowed several mutual acquaintances. That alone set off alarm bells across the internet. 'cause it was subtle proof that something behind the scenes had shifted in a big way. Those who have followed Martell's public downfall remember how he mocked nurses on camera, calling them dishonest, which many now believe was a direct jab at Arionne, who had once trained as a nurse before she allegedly left her job under his influence, and the irony of that statement continues to haunt him, because it revealed a deeper pattern of control that Miss Marlene herself seemed to be hinting at when she said she feared what her son had become, a man so lost in ego that he could not see the damage he had done not only to his marriage but to his own identity. Insiders claim that Miss Marlene tried to intervene quietly, urging Martell to get therapy, to step away from the spotlight, to focus on healing, but he reportedly brushed it off, saying people needed to stop believing gossip, and when those words reached social media, they turned into ammunition for fans who had long accused him of avoiding accountability. Because when your own mother starts echoing the same criticisms as your ex-wife, the story takes on a whole new weight. And perhaps the most chilling part of this unraveling narrative is the silence that followed, because Miss Marlene did not deny any of the rumors. She simply went quiet. And that quiet is louder than any outburst. It is the kind of silence that makes people lean in, waiting for the next revelation, wondering if she is protecting herself from more heartbreak or preparing to tell everything at once. Either way, her truth has already shaken Martell's image to its core, and for the first time even, his most loyal defenders are starting to look at him differently. After Miss Marlene's quiet confession, the air around Martell seemed to shift completely, because the man who once strutted through every argument with unshakable arrogance suddenly looked smaller, not in stature but in spirit. It was as if the foundation he had built his public image on had started to crumble right under his own words, and what made it more intriguing was how the people closest to him began changing their tone. To the same friends who used to defend him in interviews started keeping their distance, appearing more cautious when his name came up, and even those producers who once praised his charisma were now describing him behind closed doors as unpredictable and emotionally volatile. And according to an alleged crew source who spoke anonymously, they had started noticing a new tension on set, saying that Martell would show up with rehearsed smiles, trying to control the narrative, but the moment cameras stopped rolling, his composure would crack, and what replaced it was bitterness directed at anyone who questioned him, especially at the mention of Arionne. Rumors started flooding online that Arionne herself had been growing more demanding, that she allegedly monitored his calls, insisted on being present at every social event, and even tried to influence how he interacted with his children, something that deeply disturbed Miss Marlene, who reportedly felt that the relationship had become a form of quiet imprisonment rather than partnership. And these stories spread fast because fans had already seen flashes of that controlling behavior during the show, the awkward silences when Martell was confronted by Melody, the defensive body language when anyone mentioned Arionne. It all started making sense in hindsight, like the puzzle pieces were finally aligning into a picture that was never meant to be flattering. Then came the supposed financial revelations that shook the fandom even harder. Gossip blogs began claiming that Martell's once promising business ventures had gone sour, that his luxury lifestyle was no longer being sustained by actual profits, but by a dangerous mix of loans, favors, and desperation. One report even claimed that a close associate had cut ties after discovering irregularities in one of his deals. And though none of this has been officially confirmed, the whispers have grown too consistent to dismiss as pure fantasy, and within those whispers, Miss Marlene's name surfaced again, with claims that she had warned him to get out before things turned worse, that she had told him pride was no substitute for peace. But according to those same alleged insiders, he refused to listen, insisting that the media was twisting everything to make him look like a villain. The irony of that statement was not lost on fans, because Martell had spent years twisting stories himself, turning public accountability into a performance where he painted himself as misunderstood instead of wronged. And now the same audience that once watched him justify his infidelity was watching him unravel under the weight of his own choices. like poetic justice unfolding in real time and through all this chaos. MelodyShari remained silent, moving with a grace that seemed to irritate him even more. Each calm post she made on social media, whether it was about her children or her businesses, seemed to ignite a reaction from him, like a mirror reflecting what he refused to see, that peace could exist without him. Meanwhile, Arionne's role in this unraveling drama became even more controversial. Because her public appearances grew fewer, yet her shadow over Martell's life grew larger. She was no longer the other woman in gossip columns. She had become a figure of fascination and fear, someone people whispered about rather than confronted, and when supposed text messages surfaced online, allegedly showing her frustration with Miss Marlene, accusing her of meddling and calling her judgmental. The fan base split down the middle. Some defended Arionne, saying she was being unfairly blamed for Martell's downfall, while others saw it as proof that Miss Marlene's concerns were real, that the tension between them had crossed from private discomfort into open hostility. The silence from Miss Marlene during all of this spoke louder than any denial, because she did not need to argue. Her truth was already out there in the way Martell carried himself and in the way Arionne's presence seemed to haunt every decision he made, and by this point, viewers of the show started feeling that the story had shifted from a love triangle into something darker. A psychological war between control and freedom, with Miss Marlene standing helplessly on the sidelines watching her son sink deeper while knowing she could no longer save him. As the situation spiraled further, the quiet walls of Huntsville began to buzz with whispers that something major was about to break. People who once brushed off the drama as typical reality TV gossip were now wondering if there was more truth hidden behind the cameras than anyone had realized, because according to one source who claimed to have overheard a tense phone call between Martell and an unnamed producer, there was talk of footage being withheld by the network, footage that allegedly showed a late-night confrontation between Arionne and Miss Marlene in a parking lot after a family event, the kind of scene that could end reputations. If ever aired, the source described the exchange as raw, emotional, and frightening, saying that Miss Marlene had been shaking with anger, while Arionne allegedly shouted accusations of manipulation and disrespect. And though the network supposedly buried it to protect contracts, the rumor itself ignited a wildfire. Online fans demanded answers. Hashtags trended overnight, and suddenly what had once been a contained scandal turned into a cultural phenomenon, dissected on gossip podcasts and tea channels across the country. What made this entire saga even more dramatic was Martell's strange reaction to the public outrage. Instead of addressing the claims with clarity, he doubled down, posting cryptic quotes about loyalty and betrayal on social media and deleting them moments later, as if he wanted people to see his chaos but not understand it. And this behavior led many to believe that the pressure from all sides was finally breaking him, because behind every vague post there was a trail of speculation that he might be losing not just his career but his grip on control. Insiders close to production allegedly shared that he had been skipping scheduled appearances, and that Arionne had been calling the network herself, trying to negotiate new terms to limit what could be shown in upcoming episodes. Her influence behind the scenes was reportedly so strong that even executives began questioning how far they could let the story go without risking legal backlash. Through all of this, Miss Marlene's silence became the center of attention. Again, people started calling her the voice of reason, the mother who saw the storm coming before everyone else did, and fans began rewatching old clips of her warning Martell about his choices. Moments that once seemed like casual motherly concern now looked like foreshadowing of everything that had come true. Her words about pride, her warnings about the company he kept, they all echoed louder now, like a prophecy fulfilled. And what made it hit harder was how tired she looked in those clips. Her smiles seemed forced, her laughter too quick, as if she had known all along that the path her son was on would not end peacefully. Reports even surfaced that she had temporarily left town to stay with relatives, citing stress and unwanted media attention, and though she never publicly confirmed it, her absence from family events was impossible to ignore. It was as if she had quietly chosen to protect her peace, while the chaos she warned about consumed everyone else, and that quiet exit said more than any statement could. Fans began debating what the endgame would be. Some predicted lawsuits between Martell and the network. Others speculated a public breakdown that would force him to step away from the spotlight. But the most chilling rumor came from an alleged insider, who claimed Miss Marlene was considering speaking again, not in another interview, but in a recorded sit-down that could expose everything from financial cover-ups to emotional manipulation. If that ever happened, it would change the entire narrative and possibly end careers. Whether true or not, the thought of it was enough to send the fandom into a frenzy, because after years of denial and deception, people were finally seeing cracks too wide to patch up, and as the spotlight grew harsher, the once confident image of Martell Holt turned into something tragic. A man trapped by his own ambition, haunted by a relationship that had cost him everything, and overshadowed by a mother's truth that refused to stay buried no matter how hard he tried to silence it. So now that you've heard everything from the whispered confessions to the hidden footage and the silent storm that's been brewing inside the Holt family, the question is, what do you think really happened here? Is Martell just a victim of bad choices, or is there something darker behind his downfall? Was Miss Marlena trying to save her son, or simply exposing the truth that everyone else was too afraid to say? Because one thing's clear: this story isn't over, not by a long shot, and if that rumored sit-down ever sees the light of day, it could change everything we thought we knew about this messy empire. The lines between truth and television have never been blurrier, and that's exactly why you can't look away. So drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Tell me whose side you're on and what you think Miss Marlene should do next. Should she'll go public or protect her peace once and for all? And before you scroll away, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because the next revelation in this ongoing chaos might just make today's drama look like the calm before the real storm.